Hey guys, welcome back to the Housewife Historian. We are here to talk Real Housewives. Well, usually that's who we're here to talk about. I do want to talk a little bit about Jeff Lewis and Cynthia Bailey on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. But I also want to talk a little bit about Mike from the Shahs of Sunset because he was in the headlines yesterday, guys, and it was not for a good thing at all. In fact, it was for about 14 bad things that he had done. Before we get started though, guys, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, turn those notifications on. If you're new to the page, you should definitely turn the notifications on. I broke the story about Erica and this $1 billion lawsuit that had hit the court docket live 2 days ago, one of the very first outlets to post about it. So you can find that video a couple of videos back, but just make sure you're commenting, hit that like button, and let's go ahead and get started. Mike from Shahs of Sunset originally was making the news back, I want to say in March, for a domestic dispute allegedly between Paulina and himself at his residence. He was arrested, booked into the county jail at 1:05 a.m. Paulina never gave a statement. She did make a statement through her attorney, but we didn't really know 100% if she was the victim or not. And even though Mike has been officially been charged with 14 different charges stemming from this one incident, she's never really confirmed that she's the victim. But from the police reports obtained by TMZ, it does state that the victim was a 31-year-old female. We have to talk about a lot of different things with this, guys. But let's kind of let's get to the basics just so everyone can have a really good understanding of domestic disputes. Kind of make things a little bit more confusing, and every state has their own domestic laws, rules, and regulations that they abide by. In some states, if there's a domestic dispute and one party is taken to jail, they are forced to take the other party, whether they're the aggressor or the victim. They do this because sometimes the aggressor, that like the couple, if they live together, if say the wife is beating up on the husband and they arrest the wife, take her to jail, and then she posts bond, but the husband's at home asleep with the kids, and he has no idea that his angry wife who, is physically abusive to him, just posted bond. She gets out, comes home, and unalives him. Then the state has a really big problem on their hands. So what they've learned to do is to arrest both parties, both of them, seeing the judge at the same time. And, the judge kind of makes a decision from there. In Mike's case, it sounded like there was a third party involved. We're not really going to touch base on that third party because they weren't listed in the police report. So for today, we're just going to be under the assumption that it was just him and Paulina during this domestic dispute. Another thing we have to consider, guys, is some of these charges are weapons charges. And again, every law in, federal rules and regulations are not the same. It's state by state case, okay? He's charged with a possession of a loaded assault rifle. It's not good, guys. That's not good, okay? Because here's the thing. If Mike, he's also being charged with a felony out of those 14, which is not good. And he's also being charged with coercing a domestic spouse to not come, be forthright and basically fill out a police report and want to press charges. They said that he was trying to coerce her out of doing that. And they felt that so strongly, they charged him with a crime for it. That's not good at all. Mike would have been better off to have just taken the domestic dispute misdemeanor, shown up in court, got counseling with Paulina, did 6 months probation, did a year of probation, paid a fine, and went on about his married day, and him and Paulina could have decided what they wanted to do about their relationship then. But now he has felony charge, he has 14 other charges. Guns involved in any situation where a crime is happening amps the charges, okay? It just does. If you get caught with drugs versus if you get caught with drugs and a weapon around those drugs, it amps the charges. Always. A gun just takes the risk so much more higher in these types of situations where there's domestics, where there's drugs, where there's, these types of things happening. And so the court really frowns and looks down on people who possibly have loaded guns, loaded assault rifles in high risk situations. So Mike is a little bit in trouble here because now he has to deal with the domestic, he has to deal with the felony, and he has to deal with the weapons charges, because the weapons charges are very serious as well. Not to say that the domestic aren't, but it's his first domestic. He's never been in trouble before. Like, I think the court would have had a little bit of leniency on giving him and Paulina, the decision to decide what they want to do and what worked best for them and their family. But now the court's basically going to decide for them, because he's going to have to pay an attorney. He's going to be back and forth to court. Mike has anxiety. If you guys haven't noticed, he's not someone that does well with like impending doom. So the fact that he has 14 charges over him and he could be looking at prison time, jail time, probation, that's probably terrifying for him. Terrifying. I mean, I wouldn't even doubt if the dude is not even like about to leave the country. Seriously. Like, Mike is not someone that has ever, I think that I know the type personally. So to me, it just seems like he is probably terrified thinking about going to jail or having to serve any jail time, or having a probation officer tell him that he has a curfew and he, can't consume alcohol or be around other criminals. Who knows what the case may be, but Mike is feeling that, and he's going to be dealing with this for a long time because the judicial system is not fast. And sometimes that is actually in favor of the person who's fighting a case, because if they know that their impending is to go away to jail for a couple of years, then the goal of the attorney is to keep their plaintiff, the defendant, out and free as long as possible. Paulina, they went on vacation together after this happened. They were seen with her and her 2 daughters. She does have 2 children from a previous marriage. I think they were in Cabo. She never came out and said she was a victim. We are just finding out that TMZ reported it was a 31-year-old female, and she would have been 31 at the time. She has since turned 32. So everyone is we're confirming that 90% sure that this is Paulina. Also, guys, when this first happened, I was curious because I had always heard that she had more money than he did, and that's where a lot of his insecurities came from within their marriage, and that when COVID hit, he had to kind of lean on her a little bit financially because he was, doing the high rises, the high-end apartments, and had his hands in a lot of different things, and, he lives an expensive lifestyle, and so allegedly they were kind of spending her money, allegedly. I looked up her ex-husband. It's true. He is very wealthy. He's a CEO, I want to say, of like a, I cannot think of the name of it. I will get back to you guys with it. It's in one of my other videos on the Shahs. But it's true. He checks out. He's legitimate. He is a legitimate, very wealthy millionaire businessman that lives in the LA area. I think that was hard for Mike too. With Paulina having children and having an ex that was around probably a lot. They probably had they had to co-parent 2 children. I think that we probably saw some insecurities coming out of Mike because of that. And I don't think he'd really ever dealt with that. Jessica didn't have children. So he really just wasn't, not, of course, by no means defending him. I'm just saying this is why I think we saw some cracks with Mike when it came to Paulina. And if you guys remember the last reunion, Destiny kind of insinuated that there was some physical abuse that could be going on. And she asked Paulina if she was allowed to share what Paulina had shared with her in private, and Paulina asked her not to. So we never really got to find that out, but the implication was definitely there. I don't know, guys. I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think that he's going to go to jail? Do you think that he is abusing his partner? Was this a one-time situation? What do you guys think? What do you think of Paulina? Do you think that she should stay with Mike? Do you think that it's going to help his case that she didn't, stay broken up with him, that they're back together, that she's probably going to go into the court, talk with the prosecutors privately because they're going to want to speak with the victim and see what story she sells them. Because in the end, money talks, honey. Money talks. And if Paulina got the money and Mike got some money and his parents got some money because they don't want their baby going to jail, they're going to pay for an attorney, and he might not do any time. He might not. I mean, we could see a plea deal take place. We talk about this all the time, right, guys? Sometimes we've heard of our government, our local government, overcharging individuals, which means giving them more charges than they deserved, more charges of things that, maybe they're just overcharging people with too many crimes at one time. Like, did 14 crimes take place in this incident? Okay, because sometimes our laws are so gray. A lot of things can fall under certain categories. So sometimes we'll see our government sometimes charge someone with maybe 15 charges, and then they'll say, okay, we want to cop a plea deal with you, we'll drop everything but the felony and the 2 misdemeanors. We want you to do 6 months in jail, a year and a half for probation, and $5,000 in fines. So all of the other charges would be dropped. And, if you take the plea deal and plead guilty and take responsibility for the crimes in front of the judge and on the court docket, then we'll, cop you this deal. And in return, the prosecutors get a conviction rate. So this helps them, elections, years, so on and so forth. Everyone wants to know, prosecutor, judges, their conviction rate, right? So the plea deals definitely help the conviction rate. So that's why we see so many of them. And so people have, shared with other people what their original charges are and what they look like by the end of their plea deal. And so a lot of people started to realize it seems to be a common theme in some areas of our country where you'll see people get charged with lots and lots of crimes and then they'll be offered a plea deal. So, all right, guys. Well, I want to know what you guys think of the Shahs of Sunset and this whole situation with Mike and Paulina. If you follow them, then, I don't need to fill in all the details for you. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and turn those notifications on.